The bleeding host miracles in Buenos Aires, Argentina, during 1992, 1994, and 1996 are among the most remarkable Eucharistic miracles of modern times, inspiring faith and devotion among Catholics worldwide. In 1992, a host was found on the ground during a mass in a parish in Buenos Aires. To safeguard its sanctity, the priest placed the host in a container of water and stored it in the tabernacle. After a few days, the host dissolved into a reddish substance resembling blood. This unexpected transformation deeply moved the faithful, sparking reverence and curiosity about its spiritual significance. 2 years later, in 1994, a similar event occurred in the same parish. Once again, a consecrated host began to exhibit a blood-like appearance. These recurring phenomena strengthened the belief among many that these were divine signs of Christ's real presence in the Eucharist. However, it was in 1996 that the most extraordinary and well-documented miracle occurred. On August 15th, a woman attending Mass discovered a desecrated host at the back of the church. Following protocol, the priest placed the host in water and stored it in the tabernacle. Days later, instead of dissolving, the host transformed into a piece of flesh and blood. Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, who would later become Pope Francis, was informed about the occurrence and initiated a thorough investigation. In 1999, under his direction, a sample of the transformed host was sent for scientific analysis. Dr. Ricardo Castañón Gomez, a scientist and former atheist, led the study. His findings were astonishing. The sample was identified as human heart tissue, specifically from the left ventricle, which pumps blood to the entire body. Further analysis revealed that the tissue bore signs of severe stress and trauma, as would be seen in someone who had suffered immense agony. The blood type was AB, a rare type that matches the blood found in other Eucharistic miracles, such as the miracle of Lanciano in Italy and the Shroud of Turin. Even more astonishingly, the tissue was still alive when examined under the microscope, despite having been preserved without special treatment for several years. This baffled scientists, as there was no natural explanation for such a phenomenon. These miracles have profound spiritual significance for Catholics, as they affirm the doctrine of the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. The transformation of the host into living tissue serves as a tangible reminder of Christ's presence and his sacrifice on the cross. The tissue from the heart, specifically from the left ventricle, symbolizes the immense suffering Jesus endured out of love for humanity. It invites believers to reflect deeply on his sacrifice and approach the Eucharist with renewed faith, reverence, and devotion. The Eucharist is not merely a symbolic act, but a living encounter with Christ, where his body and blood are truly present. These miraculous events also serve as a call to deeper faith for skeptics and non-believers. The scientific findings challenge human understanding and point to a reality beyond the physical world. For many, they are signs of God's intervention, inviting people to reflect on his presence and love in their lives. The miracles of Buenos Aires have had a lasting impact on the faith of countless people around the world, inspiring them to cherish the Eucharist as the source and summit of Christian life. Pope Francis, who was closely involved in these events, has often emphasized the importance of the Eucharist as a source of strength, unity, and grace for all believers. The bleeding host miracles remind us of the sacredness of the Eucharist and call us to approach it with humility and awe, acknowledging it as the living body and blood of Christ. They challenge us to renew our faith, deepen our love for God, and live in greater communion with him through the mystery of the Eucharist. These miraculous signs continue to inspire reflection on the power and mystery of God's presence in the world today. In 1310, a miraculous event took place in Fiecht, a village in Austria that continues to inspire awe and deepen the faith of many Catholics. The story begins with a priest who struggled with doubt about the doctrine of transubstantiation, the belief that during the consecration at Mass, the bread and wine truly become the body and blood of Christ while retaining the appearance of bread and wine. This particular priest found it difficult to accept that such a profound transformation could occur. One day, as he celebrated Mass in the Benedictine Abbey of St. Georgenberg, Fiecht, a remarkable event unfolded. When the moment of consecration arrived, the wine in the chalice visibly transformed into real living blood. The miraculous blood began to boil and overflow from the chalice, spilling onto the altar in a way that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Witnesses described the scene with astonishment, noting how the blood's movement seemed unnatural, as if it were alive, pulsating with divine power. The priest, overwhelmed by what he saw, fell to his knees, repenting for his doubt and reaffirming his faith in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. The boiling and overflowing of the chalice had profound symbolic significance, reflecting the overflowing love and sacrifice of Christ, who poured out his blood for humanity's salvation. It also served as a powerful reminder of the sacredness of the Mass and the centrality of the Eucharist in Christian life. In the context of the priest's doubt, the miracle highlighted the importance of faith, especially in mysteries that transcend human understanding. This event was not just a miracle for the doubting priest, but also a profound sign for the faithful who heard of it. Over time, the story of the Fiecht miracle spread across Europe, becoming a source of inspiration and renewed reverence for the Eucharist. Many pilgrims visited the abbey to venerate the altar where the miracle occurred, and the event became a focal point for deepening devotion to the Blessed Sacrament. Scientific understanding could not explain how or why the wine transformed into living blood, boiling and overflowing in such a dramatic manner. The physical phenomenon reinforced the divine nature of the miracle, challenging skeptics to reconsider their disbelief. For the faithful, this miraculous event was a tangible affirmation of their beliefs. It demonstrated that Christ's presence in the Eucharist is not merely symbolic, but real and active, capable of manifesting in extraordinary ways to draw people closer to Him. The Fiecht miracle also underscores the significance of the priest's role in the celebration of the Mass. Priests are called to act in the person of Christ, consecrating the bread and wine with faith and humility. The priest's initial doubt served as a reminder of human frailty, while his eventual repentance highlighted the transformative power of divine grace. The boiling and overflowing blood was also a visual representation of Christ's passion and suffering. It reminded the faithful of the cost of their redemption and the love that drove Christ to endure such immense agony. The miraculous nature of the event served to renew the congregation's appreciation of the Eucharist as a living encounter with the crucified and risen Lord. This miracle encouraged deeper reflection on the sacrifice of Christ, which is represented at every Mass. The faithful were reminded to approach the altar with reverence, gratitude, and an open heart, ready to receive the graces that flow from the Eucharist. Furthermore, the Fiecht miracle became a rallying point for Eucharistic devotion, inspiring the establishment of Eucharistic adoration and processions in many communities. Spiritually, the Fiecht miracle continues to resonate as a call to trust in God's mysteries, even when they surpass human understanding. It serves as a reminder that doubt is a natural part of faith, but God provides signs and graces to strengthen those who seek Him sincerely. The miracle also challenges believers to examine their approach to the Eucharist. Do they truly believe in the real presence of Christ, or do they approach it merely as a ritual? The story of the doubting priest and his transformation encourages the faithful to deepen their belief and foster a personal relationship with Jesus through the Blessed Sacrament. It also calls for a renewed focus on the sacredness of the liturgy, reminding both clergy and laity of the divine mystery at the heart of the Mass. The Fiecht miracle remains a powerful testimony to the reality of Christ's presence in the Eucharist and the transformative power of faith. It inspires believers to embrace the mystery of transubstantiation and approach the altar with awe and humility. Through this miraculous event, God offered not only a profound sign of His love, but also a gentle correction to human frailty, drawing the doubting priest and countless others closer to Him. The boiling and overflowing blood of Fiecht invites all Christians to reflect on the depth of Christ's sacrifice, the sacredness of the Eucharist, and the limitless love of God for His people. The year 1384 in Seefeld, Austria is remembered for an extraordinary event involving the miraculous bleeding host, which coincided with a powerful earthquake. This event became a cornerstone of local history and a source of spiritual reflection for generations. It began during a Mass at the St. Oswald Church in Seefeld. Legend states that a nobleman named Oswald Milzer, known for his arrogance and entitlement, demanded to receive the large priestly host instead of the smaller one typically given to laypeople. This act of pride and irreverence triggered a supernatural event that astonished all present. When the priest reluctantly handed the large host to Oswald Milzer, the ground beneath him suddenly trembled, and the nobleman was thrown to his knees. At the same time, the host began to bleed, and cracks formed in the church floor, as though the earth itself was reacting to the sacrilegious act. The earthquake, though localized, was said to be powerful enough to terrify the witnesses and shake the surrounding area. The miraculous nature of this event quickly became the focus of both spiritual and geological inquiries. On one hand, the bleeding host was seen as a divine intervention, symbolizing Christ's suffering and a direct rebuke to human pride and irreverence toward the Eucharist. The bleeding host remained visible for an extended period, drawing pilgrims from far and wide. Many believed that the earthquake was not merely a natural occurrence, but an act of divine power to underscore the sacredness of the moment. On the other hand, the earthquake, though less understood in scientific terms during that era, added a physical and dramatic dimension to the spiritual phenomenon. The ground's trembling served as a tangible reminder of the power and presence of God. Local records and oral traditions emphasize the connection between human actions, divine justice, and natural phenomena. The earthquake was interpreted as a sign of divine displeasure, reinforcing the sacredness of the Eucharist and calling for humility and repentance. The cracks in the church floor were left unrepaired for some time, serving as a visible and lasting reminder of the event. These cracks became a focal point for pilgrims who visited to venerate the bleeding host and reflect on their own faith. Pilgrims would often kneel at the site, considering it hallowed ground. The impact of the Seefeld miracle extended far beyond the region. Accounts of the event spread across Europe, fueling devotion to the Eucharist and inspiring the construction of altars and monuments in honor of the bleeding host. The event also influenced theological discussions of the time, as it highlighted the mystery of the Eucharist and the consequences of disrespecting sacred rituals. Church authorities used the event as a teaching moment, emphasizing the importance of reverence during Mass and the dangers of pride and entitlement. The connection between the earthquake and the bleeding host became a powerful narrative, blending the natural and the divine in a way that resonated deeply with medieval Christians. The Seefeld event also left a mark on the local community. The St. Oswald Church was transformed into a significant pilgrimage site, attracting visitors from across the Holy Roman Empire. The church's architecture was modified to accommodate the growing number of pilgrims, and special liturgical celebrations were instituted to commemorate the event. Local artisans created depictions of the miracle, including paintings, stained glass windows, and sculptures, which further solidified its place in popular devotion. These artistic representations often included imagery of the trembling ground, the bleeding host, and Oswald Milzer's humbled posture, serving as visual catechesis for those unable to read. Centuries later, modern interpretations of the Seefeld miracle continue to inspire debate and reflection. Geologists and historians have examined the event from their respective disciplines, seeking to understand the nature and extent of the earthquake. Some suggest that the seismic activity could have been caused by tectonic movements in the region, which is known for its geological instability. However, the timing and context of the earthquake remain a mystery, leaving room for spiritual interpretation. Believers argue that the simultaneous occurrence of the earthquake and the bleeding host cannot be dismissed as a coincidence. They see it as a profound reminder of the interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual realms. In addition to its theological and historical significance, the Seefeld miracle offers insights into medieval spirituality and the relationship between humans and nature. During the 14th century, people viewed natural disasters as expressions of divine will, often connected to human sin or virtue. The earthquake at Seefeld was no exception. It was seen as a wake-up call, urging individuals and communities to align their lives with God's will. The event also highlights the medieval understanding of the Eucharist as the literal body and blood of Christ, deserving of utmost reverence and devotion. The legacy of the Seefeld miracle endures in modern times. Pilgrims continue to visit the site, now part of the Tyrol region in Austria, to honor the Eucharist and seek spiritual renewal. The story of Oswald Milzer and the Bleeding Host is retold in various forms, from sermons and books to documentaries and guided tours. It serves as a timeless reminder of the power of humility, the sanctity of the Eucharist, and the mysterious ways in which God can work through both natural and supernatural means. The Seefeld miracle invites all who hear it to reflect on their own faith, actions, and relationship with the divine. In 1411, the peaceful village of Weiten-Raxendorf in Austria witnessed one of the most profound Eucharistic miracles in history, which has been remembered and venerated for centuries. The event, known as the Miracle of the Glowing Host, occurred during a time of deep devotion to the Eucharist in medieval Europe. At the heart of this miracle is a story of divine intervention, strengthening the faith of believers and inviting humanity to reflect on the mysteries of Christ's presence in the Blessed Sacrament. The miracle unfolded during a time when the Catholic Church faced numerous challenges, including schisms and struggles to maintain unity. Despite these difficulties, devotion to the Eucharist remained strong. The village priest of Weiten-Raxendorf was deeply committed to his ministry and sought to protect the sanctity of the Eucharist. One day he found himself in possession of a consecrated host that appeared to glow with an extraordinary light. This radiant host seemed to defy explanations, emitting a divine glow that captivated all who witnessed it. News of the glowing host spread quickly throughout the region, and people flocked to the church to witness the miraculous event firsthand. As the host continued to glow, a sense of awe and reverence filled the hearts of the faithful. The luminous light was described as soft and warm, yet powerful enough to illuminate the surrounding area, even in darkness. This inexplicable phenomenon was seen as a sign of Christ's real presence in the Eucharist, affirming the Church's teaching that the bread and wine consecrated during Mass become the body and blood of Christ. Pilgrims traveled from distant villages and towns to see the miracle, and many reported feeling a profound sense of peace and spiritual renewal in its presence. The event was not only a spiritual experience, but also a visual reminder of the divine mysteries of the Catholic faith. In an era before modern scientific understanding, the glowing host was interpreted as an unmistakable work of God. Church authorities conducted a thorough investigation into the miracle, and the event was eventually recognized as authentic. The glowing host was preserved and became the centerpiece of veneration in the local church. To this day, the village of Weiten-Raxendorf remains a pilgrimage site, drawing believers who seek to connect with the miraculous event and strengthen their faith. The symbolism of the glowing host carries deep theological significance. Light is often associated with Christ in Christian tradition, symbolizing his role as the light of the world. The radiant host served as a tangible manifestation of this symbolism, reminding the faithful of Jesus' promise to be with his followers until the end of time. It also highlighted the importance of the Eucharist as the source and summit of Christian life. The miracle inspired greater devotion to the Blessed Sacrament, encouraging believers to approach the Eucharist with reverence, gratitude, and faith. The miracle of 1411 also served as a unifying force for the community. At a time when Europe was divided by political conflicts and religious tensions, the glowing host brought people together in shared worship and devotion. It transcended social and cultural barriers, drawing individuals from all walks of life into a collective experience of faith. For many, the miracle was a turning point in their spiritual lives, leading to conversions, deeper prayer, and a renewed commitment to the teachings of the Church. Furthermore, the glowing host of Weiten-Raxendorf serves as a reminder of the enduring power of miracles to inspire and transform. While skeptics might attempt to explain such phenomena through natural causes, the profound spiritual impact of the event cannot be denied. The miracle resonates across generations, continuing to inspire those who hear its story. It stands as a testament to the mystery and beauty of the Catholic faith, inviting believers to embrace the Eucharist not only as a ritual, but as a real encounter with the divine. In the centuries that followed, the miracle's legacy was preserved through art, literature, and oral tradition. Paintings and stained glass windows depicting the glowing and flowing host became common in the region, serving as visual reminders of the event. Local festivals and commemorations further ensured that the story of the miracle would be passed down through generations. Even today, the miracle of the glowing host is celebrated in Weiten-Raxendorf with processions, prayers, and special masses, keeping its memory alive in the hearts of the faithful. This remarkable event remains a powerful example of God's desire to reveal himself to humanity. It invites reflection on the mystery of the Eucharist and encourages believers to deepen their relationship with Christ. The glowing host of Weiten-Raxendorf continues to be a source of inspiration and faith, reminding the world of the transformative power of the sacraments and the enduring presence of God in the lives of his people. The miracle of the bleeding host in Bois-Seigneur-Isaac, Belgium, is one of the earliest and most remarkable Eucharistic miracles in Christian history. It occurred in 1405 in a small village near Brussels and has been a profound source of faith and devotion for centuries. The story begins with a priest who, while celebrating Mass, was performing the consecration of the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. As part of Catholic tradition, this moment is believed to represent the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. On this occasion, however, something extraordinary occurred. While elevating the host, the priest noticed that the consecrated bread began to bleed. Witnesses describe seeing red drops of blood flowing from the host, staining the altar cloth, and bringing awe and reverence to everyone present. This miraculous occurrence quickly drew the attention of the local community and church authorities. The bishop ordered an investigation to determine the validity of the event. The blood-stained cloth and host were closely examined, and it was determined that the blood was human. This conclusion was seen as an affirmation of Catholic doctrine regarding the Eucharist and its transformation during Mass. The Church deemed the event to be a genuine miracle, leading to widespread veneration of the host and the establishment of Bois-Seigneur-Isaac as a significant pilgrimage site. The miracle inspired deep devotion, and the relics, including the blood-stained cloth, were preserved and displayed for public veneration. In the years following the miracle, Bois-Seigneur-Isaac became a center for Eucharistic devotion. Pilgrims traveled from across Europe to see the relics and participate in processions, particularly during the feast of Corpus Christi. This feast, which celebrates the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, gained even greater importance in the region due to the miracle. Many testimonies were recorded of people experiencing spiritual renewal, physical healings, and deepened faith as a result of their pilgrimage. The church built a special chapel in Bois-Seigneur-Isaac to honor the miraculous event, and it became a site of continuous prayer and adoration. The miraculous host of Bois-Seigneur-Isaac is closely linked to the theological concept of transubstantiation. This doctrine holds that the bread and wine at Mass are transformed into the body and blood of Christ while maintaining their outward appearance. The bleeding of the host in 1405 was interpreted as divine proof of this teaching. It served as a powerful reminder to believers of Christ's sacrifice on the cross and his enduring presence in the Eucharist. For the faithful, it was a call to approach the sacrament with greater reverence, humility, and love. Even skeptics and non-believers were moved by the physical evidence of blood, leading some to conversion and renewed faith. Over the centuries, the devotion to the miracle has continued, though the story itself has sometimes been overshadowed by other Eucharistic miracles. However, in Belgium and neighboring countries, Bois-Seigneur-Isaac remains a treasured site of pilgrimage and prayer. The miracle has inspired countless works of art, hymns, and literature. Many artists have depicted the bleeding host in paintings and stained glass windows, emphasizing the connection between the Eucharist and Christ's Passion. These depictions have served as a visual catechism for those who could not read or fully understand theological teachings. The historical context of the miracle is also noteworthy. The 15th century was a time of great social and religious upheaval in Europe. Wars, plagues, and political instability caused widespread fear and uncertainty. Amid these challenges, the Bois-Seigneur-Isaac miracle was seen as a sign of hope and reassurance of God's presence. It reminded believers that, despite human suffering and turmoil, Christ's love and sacrifice were eternal and unchanging. This message resonated deeply with the people of the time and has continued to inspire generations of Catholics. Today, the legacy of the Bois-Seigneur-Isaac bleeding host endures as a testament to the power of faith and the mystery of the Eucharist. Pilgrims continue to visit the site, drawn by the story of the miracle and its profound spiritual significance. The relics are still venerated, and the annual Corpus Christi procession remains a major event in the local community. These traditions serve not only to honor the past, but also to renew the faith of those who participate. In reflecting on the Bois-Seigneur-Isaac miracle, one is reminded of the deep connection between faith and mystery. The bleeding of the host defies scientific explanation and invites believers to trust in the supernatural presence of Christ in the Eucharist. It challenges us to deepen our understanding of this sacred mystery and to approach the Mass with awe and reverence. The miracle also serves as a reminder of the unity of the Church, as it has drawn people from diverse backgrounds and cultures to share in the common experience of faith. The Bois-Seigneur-Isaac bleeding host remains one of the most compelling Eucharistic miracles in history. Its story continues to inspire devotion, reflection, and a renewed appreciation for the gift of the Eucharist. For those who visit the site or learn about the miracle, it offers a powerful reminder of God's presence and love, inviting all to draw closer to Him in faith and worship. The relic of the Holy Blood, preserved in Bruges, Belgium, is one of the most revered Christian relics believed to contain the blood of Jesus Christ. This relic is housed in the Basilica of the Holy Blood, located in the Burg Square, and holds profound historical and spiritual significance. According to tradition, the relic was brought to Bruges in 1203 during the aftermath of the Fourth Crusade. Thierry of Alsace, Count of Flanders, is credited with bringing the relic from the Holy Land to his homeland. The journey of this sacred artifact, filled with tales of devotion and miracles, has captured the imagination and faith of Christians for centuries. The Basilica of the Holy Blood itself is a remarkable monument that mirrors the importance of the relic it holds. This church, composed of two chapels, combines Romanesque and Gothic architectural styles, showcasing the grandeur and piety of medieval Bruges. The lower chapel, dedicated to St. Basil, is a serene Romanesque space that offers a stark contrast to the richly ornamented upper chapel. The upper chapel, where the relic is displayed, is a vibrant and awe-inspiring example of Gothic architecture, adorned with colorful murals and intricate decorations. Visitors often describe the atmosphere as one filled with divine presence, fitting for the holy object it protects. The relic is housed in a rock crystal vial, encased in a gold and silver reliquary, which is paraded through the streets of Bruges annually during the procession of the Holy Blood. This grand event takes place on Ascension Day and is one of the most significant religious festivals in Belgium. Thousands of pilgrims and tourists gather to witness the procession, where the relic is carried in a spectacular display of devotion and tradition. Participants dressed in historical and biblical costumes reenact scenes from the Old and New Testaments, culminating in the veneration of the relic. This event not only celebrates the relic's sanctity, but also preserves the cultural heritage of Bruges, uniting the faithful in a shared expression of faith. The significance of the Holy Blood relic is rooted in its alleged connection to the crucifixion of Christ. Tradition holds that Joseph of Arimathea collected Jesus' blood during the crucifixion and preserved it. Over centuries, the relic passed through various hands, ultimately finding its way to Bruges. While the historical authenticity of the relic has been a matter of scholarly debate, its spiritual impact is undeniable. Believers regard it as a tangible link to the Passion of Christ, a reminder of his sacrifice for humanity's salvation. The relic has also been associated with numerous miracles, with many pilgrims reporting healing and divine blessings after venerating it. The Basilica of the Holy Blood is not only a place of worship, but also a center of historical inquiry and preservation. Over the centuries, the church has undergone various renovations, each preserving and enhancing its beauty and sanctity. The relic itself has been the subject of careful study and preservation efforts to ensure its longevity. The custodians of the basilica maintain a strict schedule for displaying the relic, allowing visitors and pilgrims to view it at designated times. This balance between accessibility and reverence reflects the importance of the relic as a sacred object and a historical treasure. The role of the relic in the religious and cultural life of Bruges cannot be overstated. The city has long been a hub of art, commerce, and devotion, and the presence of the Holy Blood relic has greatly contributed to its identity. During the medieval period, Bruges was a major center for pilgrimage, attracting people from all over Europe who came to seek blessings and indulge in the deep spiritual atmosphere of the city. The wealth generated by this influx of pilgrims helped finance the construction of grand churches and public works, further solidifying Bruges' reputation as a beacon of faith and culture. In addition to its religious significance, the Holy Blood relic has also been a symbol of unity and resilience for the people of Bruges. Throughout the city's turbulent history, including periods of war and occupation, the relic has served as a source of hope and inspiration. Stories of the relic being hidden and protected during times of crisis highlight the deep reverence the people of Bruges hold for this sacred object. Even today, the relic remains a focal point of community life, with the annual procession and daily veneration rituals drawing people together in a shared expression of faith. The enduring popularity of the relic and its associated traditions speaks to the universal appeal of sacred objects in connecting people to the divine. In an increasingly secular world, the Holy Blood relic serves as a reminder of the power of faith and the importance of preserving spiritual and cultural heritage. For the people of Bruges and the countless pilgrims who visit each year, the relic is more than an artifact. It is a living testament to the enduring power of the Christian faith and the profound impact of Christ's sacrifice. Today, the Basilica of the Holy Blood continues to be a place of pilgrimage, attracting visitors from all over the world. Its combination of architectural splendor, historical significance, and spiritual atmosphere makes it a must-visit destination for those seeking a deeper connection to their faith. The relic, with its rich history and mystical allure, remains a source of inspiration and devotion, inviting people to reflect on the mysteries of the Passion and the boundless love of Christ. The Bleeding Host of Brussels is one of the most significant Eucharistic miracles in Christian history, occurring in the year 1370 in Belgium. This miraculous event is tied to the desecration and theft of consecrated hosts by a group of individuals who sought to mock and dishonor the Catholic faith. The story begins when a group of Jews living in Brussels at the time obtained consecrated hosts from a Christian who betrayed the sacred mysteries of the Church. This act was motivated by a desire to ridicule the belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Once the hosts were in their possession, they reportedly subjected them to desecration, stabbing them with sharp objects to see if they would bleed. To their astonishment, the hosts began to emit blood, a phenomenon that defied natural explanation and struck fear into their hearts. This miraculous occurrence became known as the bleeding host and was seen as divine proof of the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. The authorities were soon informed of the incident and an investigation followed. It was discovered that the hosts had been stolen from the Catholic Church and desecrated. The guilty individuals were brought to justice, and their actions were condemned both by civil authorities and religious leaders of the time. As the desecration of the hosts was a grave offense against both God and the Church, the surviving consecrated hosts were recovered with great reverence and placed in the care of the clergy. They were venerated as sacred relics, evidence of Christ's enduring presence in the Eucharist and the mystery of the faith. Over the years, these relics became central to a growing devotion in Brussels, drawing pilgrims from across Europe who came to witness the miracle and honor the sacred hosts. In the aftermath of the event, the Church took steps to commemorate the miracle and ensure its legacy would inspire future generations. A chapel, later known as the Chapel of the Holy Sacrament, was constructed in the Cathedral of St. Michael and St. Gudula in Brussels to enshrine the miraculous hosts. This site became a place of pilgrimage and devotion, where the faithful would gather to venerate the bleeding host and seek spiritual renewal. The annual Feast of the Holy Sacrament was instituted to honor the event, and processions were held to celebrate the miracle and remind the faithful of the sanctity of the Eucharist. The miracle also had a profound impact on the religious and cultural life of Brussels. It reinforced the Catholic Church's teaching on the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, deepening the faith of the people and encouraging greater reverence for the Blessed Sacrament. In an age when disputes over theology and the sacraments were common, the bleeding host served as a powerful reminder of the mystery of the Eucharist and the divine power that underlies the Church's teachings. Artists and writers of the time were inspired by the miracle, creating works that depicted the event and its significance. These cultural contributions further spread the story of the bleeding host and ensured its place in the collective memory of European Christendom. The bleeding host of Brussels also highlights the historical tensions and prejudices that existed between religious communities in medieval Europe. The involvement of the Jewish community in the desecration, whether real or perceived, was used as justification for severe punishment and the expulsion of Jews from Brussels. This tragedy reflects the broader context of religious intolerance during that period, where accusations of sacrilege often led to violence and persecution. While the miracle itself is a source of spiritual inspiration, the events surrounding it remind us of the human capacity for misunderstanding and injustice. In modern times, this aspect of the story calls for reflection on the need for dialogue, tolerance, and mutual respect among different religious traditions. Scientific and theological debates about the bleeding host continue to this day, with some skeptics questioning the historical accuracy of the events and others affirming their miraculous nature. The Church, however, upholds the bleeding host of Brussels as an authentic Eucharistic miracle, one that testifies to the mystery of the faith and the presence of Christ in the sacrament. For the faithful, the miracle is not just a historical event, but a living testament to God's love and a call to deeper devotion. Pilgrims who visit the Cathedral of St. Michael and St. Gudula today can still feel the impact of this miracle as they stand before the sacred relics and reflect on the mystery of the Eucharist. The story of the bleeding host continues to inspire and challenge believers, encouraging them to approach the Eucharist with greater faith, reverence, and gratitude. Throughout the centuries, the bleeding host of Brussels has remained a symbol of God's presence in the Church and a reminder of the sacredness of the Eucharist. It calls Christians to a deeper appreciation of the sacrament and invites them to reflect on the transformative power of Christ's presence in their lives. This miracle, like others in the Church's history, transcends time and culture, offering a message of hope, love, and divine mystery to all who hear its story. In 1412, the small town of Herentals, Belgium, witnessed a miraculous event that strengthened the faith of the local Christian community and continues to inspire believers to this day. This miracle began with an act of sacrilege, a theft of consecrated hosts from the local parish church. At that time, the Eucharist was central to Catholic life, representing the real presence of Jesus Christ. Stealing consecrated hosts was considered an attack not only on the church, but on the sacredness of the faith itself. The perpetrators intended to use the stolen hosts for profane purposes, perhaps to sell them or desecrate them. However, God's intervention turned their evil intentions into an extraordinary sign of his power and love. The thieves, likely unaware of the deep spiritual implications of their crime, fled the church with the sacred hosts. Despite their efforts to hide and desecrate the Eucharist, they could not escape divine justice. Miraculously, the stolen hosts remained intact for 8 days, displaying themselves in the form of a cross. This unexpected and supernatural phenomenon confounded the thieves, who were eventually discovered. Upon being caught, they confessed their crime, describing how the hosts had resisted their attempts to desecrate them and instead formed a visible cross, a clear sign of Christ's presence. This act of divine preservation not only thwarted their sacrilegious plans, but also served as a visible and undeniable proof of the sanctity of the Eucharist. When the local authorities and clergy learned of the miracle, the recovered hosts were returned to the parish with great reverence. A solemn procession was organized to bring the Eucharist back to the church, where it was venerated by the faithful. This event profoundly impacted the people of Herentals, reigniting their devotion to the Blessed Sacrament and reminding them of its sacred significance. The miraculous preservation of the hosts in the form of a cross became a powerful symbol of Christ's unyielding presence and love, even in the face of desecration. The event drew attention beyond Herentals, attracting pilgrims from surrounding regions who came to witness the miracle and pray in the presence of the sacred hosts. The miracle was documented by church authorities who saw it as a divine confirmation of the doctrine of transubstantiation, the belief that the bread and wine used during Mass become the body and blood of Christ. In an era marked by challenges to the Catholic faith, including heresies and misunderstandings about the Eucharist, this miracle served as a reaffirmation of core Christian beliefs and strengthened the unity of the faithful. The Herentals miracle also underscores the transformative power of faith. For the local community, it was not merely a historical event, but a living testimony of God's presence among his people. The visible cross formed by the hosts symbolized not only Christ's sacrifice on Calvary, but also his victory over sin and death. This miraculous occurrence invited the people of Herentals and all who heard of it to reflect on the profound mystery of the Eucharist and to approach it with renewed reverence and devotion. It reminded them that the Eucharist is not just a symbol, but the true presence of Christ, offering spiritual nourishment and strength for those who receive it with faith. In the aftermath of the miracle, the church in Herentals became a site of pilgrimage and prayer. Devotees traveled long distances to honor the sacred hosts and seek God's blessings. The miracle inspired a deeper sense of awe and respect for the Eucharist, encouraging the faithful to receive it worthily and with hearts full of gratitude. The Church likely instituted special devotions and celebrations to commemorate the event, ensuring that its memory would endure for generations. The Herentals miracle continues to be an important part of Belgium's Catholic heritage, reminding the faithful of the enduring power and mystery of the Eucharist. It invites believers to consider the lengths to which God goes to reveal his presence and protect what is holy. The event also serves as a warning against acts of sacrilege and a call to repentance, showing that even in the face of human sinfulness, God's grace can transform situations into opportunities for faith and redemption. For modern Catholics, the story of the Herentals miracle offers valuable lessons. It challenges us to examine our own attitudes toward the Eucharist and to renew our commitment to treating it with the utmost reverence. In a world often marked by indifference or misunderstanding about the sacred, the miracle serves as a reminder of the profound reality of Christ's presence in the Eucharist. It encourages believers to seek deeper communion with God through the sacraments and to live lives that reflect his love and truth. This extraordinary event, which began with an act of desecration, ultimately became a powerful testimony to God's love and the sanctity of the Eucharist. The miraculous preservation of the hosts as a cross revealed God's ability to bring good out of evil and to remind his people of his constant presence and care. For the people of Herentals and for Catholics around the world, this miracle remains a source of inspiration and stay, drawing hearts closer to the mystery of the Eucharist and the redeeming power of Christ. In the year 1317, in the quiet town of Herkenrode near Hasselt in Belgium, one of the most profound Eucharistic miracles in Christian history took place. This event, known as the Miracle of the Bleeding Host, has become a cornerstone of Catholic faith and devotion, deeply rooted in the belief of Christ's real presence in the Eucharist. The miraculous occurrence unfolded in a time of strong medieval spirituality, where reverence for the Holy Sacrament was central to the Christian faith. But doubts and challenges also surfaced from heretical movements. The miracle began when a priest from the parish of Viversel, located near Herkenrode Abbey, was approached by a woman burdened with guilt. The woman, who had been influenced by anti-Catholic groups, sought forgiveness for her sinful actions. She confessed that she had stolen a consecrated host and subjected it to desecration as part of a ritual by those who denied the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. In her confession, she revealed that the desecrated host had started to bleed profusely, horrifying all who witnessed it. This inexplicable event caused a wave of fear and reverence to spread through the community. The priest, recognizing the gravity of the situation, retrieved the host and brought it to Herkenrode Abbey, a Cistercian monastery known for its devotion and strict adherence to spiritual practices. The abbess and her nuns received the host with profound veneration, and they placed it in a special monstrance for adoration. The bleeding host continued to show miraculous signs, solidifying the belief that this was a divine intervention meant to reaffirm the Catholic teaching of transubstantiation, the transformation of bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ during the Eucharist. News of the miracle spread quickly, drawing pilgrims from far and wide who sought to witness the miracle and deepen their faith. The Herkenrode Abbey became a significant pilgrimage site, and the bleeding host was enshrined as a sacred relic. The abbey's role in preserving the miracle was instrumental in fostering devotion to the Eucharist across Belgium and beyond. Pilgrims flocked to Herkenrode, many reporting miraculous healings and spiritual conversions after venerating the relic. This widespread devotion not only strengthened individual faith, but also revitalized communal worship and reinforced the importance of the Eucharist in Catholic life. Historical accounts and ecclesiastical records provide detailed documentation of the miracle. Church authorities conducted investigations to ensure the authenticity of the event. These investigations included theological analyses and testimonies from witnesses, all of which confirmed the miraculous nature of the occurrence. The Church declared the event a Eucharistic miracle, further legitimizing the growing devotion among the faithful. The bleeding host was later displayed during special liturgical celebrations and processions, emphasizing its central role in fostering Eucharistic devotion. Artistically, the miracle inspired numerous works of sacred art, manuscripts, and liturgical objects that depicted the event and its significance. These artistic representations served as visual catechesis, teaching the faithful about the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and the importance of treating the sacrament with utmost reverence. Over time, the bleeding host of Herkenrode became a symbol of divine mercy and a reminder of the sacredness of the Mass. The miracle also had broader implications for the Church in Belgium and Europe during a period of religious and political turmoil. In the 14th century, challenges to Catholic doctrine, including the nature of the Eucharist, were growing due to heretical movements like the Cathars and the Lollards. The miracle of Herkenrode served as a direct response to these challenges, reaffirming the Church's teachings and strengthening the faith of the laity and clergy alike. It reminded the faithful that Christ's presence in the Eucharist was not just symbolic, but truly real, as evidenced by this divine intervention. Even centuries later, the memory of the bleeding host miracle continues to inspire. Although Herkenrode Abbey was dissolved during the French Revolution and its buildings repurposed, the relics associated with the miracle were preserved and transferred to St. Quentin Cathedral in Hasselt, where they remain to this day. The cathedral serves as a continuing pilgrimage site, and the relic is venerated during special feast days and Eucharistic celebrations. The Herkenrode miracle has left an enduring legacy in the history of the Catholic Church. It stands as a testament to the power of faith, the significance of the Eucharist, and the mercy of God. For those who doubt, the bleeding host serves as a divine sign, urging believers to trust in the teachings of Christ and the Church. For those who believe, it is a source of inspiration and a call to deeper devotion and reverence. To this day, the miracle reminds the faithful of the centrality of the Eucharist in Christian life, encouraging them to approach the sacrament with profound faith and humility. The impact of the miracle extends beyond the local community of Herkenrode. It has become a spiritual treasure for Catholics worldwide, symbolizing the unchanging truth of the Eucharist across centuries. Pilgrims who visit the relic are reminded of the miraculous event that occurred over 700 years ago and are called to renew their own devotion to the sacraments. The story of the bleeding host of Herkenrode continues to inspire believers to uphold the sacredness of the Eucharist and to live lives rooted in faith, love, and devotion. The origins of the Feast of Corpus Christi are deeply rooted in the 13th and 14th centuries, particularly in the events that transpired in Liège, Belgium in 1374. This feast, now celebrated universally in the Catholic Church, commemorates the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. The movement that led to the institution of this feast was inspired by visions devotion to the Blessed Sacrament, and miraculous occurrences that solidified belief in the Eucharist as a divine mystery. Liège was at the heart of the Eucharistic movement in medieval Europe. It was a city renowned for its monasteries, intellectual centers, and deep religious fervor. One of the most notable figures associated with this movement was Saint Juliana of Cornillon, also known as Juliana of Liège, a devout nun and mystic born in the early 13th century. Although she passed away in 1258, her visions of the Blessed Sacrament sowed the seeds for the future celebration of the Feast of Corpus Christi. She saw a vision of the moon with a dark spot, symbolizing the absence of a feast dedicated specifically to the Eucharist in the Church's liturgical calendar. Inspired by these visions, Juliana devoted her life to promoting such a feast. While Juliana's efforts were supported by some local clergy and theologians, it wasn't until decades after her death that the Feast of Corpus Christi gained significant recognition. Pope Urban IV officially instituted the feast in 1264 through the papal bull Transitoris de Hoc Mundo. However, its widespread adoption across Europe faced delays due to political conflicts and challenges within the Church. By the 14th century, Eucharistic devotion had grown immensely, fueled by theological developments, miraculous events, and a growing awareness of Christ's real presence in the Eucharist. It was in 1374, in Liège, that this devotion reached a pivotal moment. The Eucharistic miracle of 1374 in Liège is often regarded as a profound confirmation of the doctrine of transubstantiation, the belief that the bread and wine truly become the body and blood of Christ during the Mass. According to historical accounts, during a Mass in Liège, the host began to bleed. Witnesses were overwhelmed by this miraculous sign, which was seen as divine affirmation of Christ's presence in the Eucharist. This event sparked widespread devotion and inspired the faithful to reflect deeply on the mystery of the Blessed Sacrament. The miracle of 1374 did not occur in isolation. It was part of a broader movement of Eucharistic miracles reported throughout Europe during the medieval period. These miracles often involved hosts that bled, glowed, or were otherwise transformed, serving as visible signs to affirm the teachings of the Church and to combat skepticism or heresy. In the case of Liège, the event underscored the city's central role in fostering Eucharistic devotion and led to increased recognition of the need for a universal feast dedicated to the Blessed Sacrament. The events in Liège in 1374 also played a significant role in uniting the clergy and the laity in their shared reverence for the Eucharist. Pilgrims from across Belgium and beyond traveled to Liège to witness the miraculous host seeking spiritual renewal and inspiration. This collective devotion further solidified the importance of the Eucharist in Catholic life and underscored the necessity of a feast to honor it. The Feast of Corpus Christi was celebrated locally in many parts of Europe by the 14th century, but it was in Liège that the feast received unparalleled support. The city's clergy, scholars, and religious leaders actively promoted the feast, emphasizing its theological and spiritual significance. The miracle of 1374 provided a concrete and powerful reason to advocate for its universal observance. Liturgical practices surrounding the Feast of Corpus Christi also began to develop during this period. In Liège and other cities, processions featuring the Blessed Sacrament became central to the feast's celebration. These processions symbolized Christ's presence among his people and served as public affirmations of faith. They involved elaborate ceremonies, with clergy, nobility, and common people participating together in acts of worship and adoration. The processions often included music, flowers, and decorations, creating a festive atmosphere that reflected the joy and reverence of the occasion. The Eucharistic miracle of Liège in 1374 also had a profound impact on theological discourse. It prompted scholars and theologians to further articulate the doctrine of transubstantiation and to defend it against challenges. The miracle was cited in sermons, writings, and debates as evidence of Christ's real presence in the Eucharist. This intellectual engagement helped deepen the Church's understanding of the Eucharist and reinforced its central role in Catholic worship. Moreover, the events in Liège contributed to a broader cultural and spiritual renewal in medieval Europe. The devotion inspired by the miracle and the Feast of Corpus Christi encouraged greater participation in the sacraments, increased reverence for the liturgy, and a deeper sense of community among the faithful. The celebration of the feast also became an opportunity for artistic and musical expression, as composers, painters, and writers sought to capture the beauty and mystery of the Eucharist in their work. The legacy of the events in Liège in 1374 continues to resonate in the Church today. The Feast of Corpus Christi is now celebrated worldwide, often with processions, adoration, and other acts of devotion. The miracle of 1374 serves as a reminder of the profound mystery of the Eucharist and its central place in Catholic faith and practice. It calls believers to reflect on the gift of Christ's presence in the Eucharist and to renew their commitment to living a life of faith, love, and service.